Hi, guys. Welcome to the Nocturnal Feeding with James, the Fish Room Fever, and me, Chattanooga Ed. And tonight, we're going to talk about oddball fish. And these are, there's, bajillions of oddball fish. I mean, everything can kind of be a oddball one way or another, unless it's something you find at a box store. But I was going to go over a few that I've looked at in the past, or I'm looking at now. If they ever come up at a rare fish auction, I want to snag. And like James and I went to a rare fish auction about a year ago, and we just had a complete blast.
We did.
And hopefully we get to do some more of these things at different club events and stuff. But right now I don't have the chat up, so I'm going to have James go through the list and say hello to individuals. I want to make this as specific as possible, because normally James just says, hi, people.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
No, yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, Ed is getting ready. A huge hello and thanks for being here to 3G503 Aquatics, Aim Spirit Fish, Aquaballs, Aquatic Aesthetics, Gary Havercorn, Daniel Velez, Darlene's Tanks, Delilah's Critters, Fish, Florida Fish Rescue, Geek Boy, Jenny Lynn, MNC Aquatics, MedCal74M, Michael Long, Mike's Aquatics and Things, Berdul saying, of course, coming in as a moderator as well. Thank you, Berdul, for all your help. I'm up at 929, My Fish Tanks Aquatics, Nicholas Smith, Patrick Hardy, Patty's Petite Tanks, Paul Steer, R&B Animal Rescue, Rico Stan, Sandy Dowdy, Stephanie Dominguez, sorry, Stephanie. The Zen Ginger also in here doing the mod work, very much appreciated. Xana Doo and a Zachary, was it Walker? Anybody I missed, I'm sorry. I'm going off the participants list, so it kind of bounces around and refreshes, but it's alphabetized, so it's easier to read off of. And that should be enough time for Ed to get his chat pulled up. Now, I do want to throw a disclaimer on this. Rare fish are going to vary for us, and by location specifically. So there may be things that you commonly see in your local fish store that we never see here, and vice versa. I know that I've had a lot of people that come to my local fish store, Aquatic Marine, and I know this also has happened with me at Aquatic Aesthetics near Chattanooga, your local fish store, Ed. And like here, they get tons of different plecos. I don't want to say high end in terms of making people think expensive, but you don't go into a whole lot of stores and go, oh, there's a snowball, there's a sultan, there's a leopard frog. You don't generally see quite the variety of plecos like I see a lot here. So to some people that would be rare to go, oh, well, a sultan pleco. I've never seen those in my local fish stores, whereas I see those all the time here. So just keep that in mind. Before they run away on me, I do want to say a huge thank you. Ed, you've got some super stickers here. Pepley Creek Aquatics with that cute little fox saying, my hero, the $3 super sticker.
Oh, and I don't even see it. Well, thank you so much, Pep.
And then that's why I was afraid the chat jumped on me there. Oh, I can still barely get to it. Carolee Habercorn came in with that $5 super sticker with the Keep It Up exercise pair.
Oh, I don't see any of these. Well, thank you so much, guys.
See, this is why I'm here. This is why he pays me the big bucks. And then Rico Stan, our buddy there with $5 super chat, says, take it easy. Take it easy. Don't let the sound of your own wheels drive you crazy. Lighten up while you still can.
Trying to think, what song is that? Take it easy, take it easy. Don't let the sound of your wheels drive you crazy. I don't know. It's probably like something that I watched every single week for half my life.
Absolutely. Right. Hello, Fishaholic. Again, we are on the Chattanooga Ed YouTube channel, but if you want to get my attention, because I tend to monitor the chat a little heavier than Ed, if you put at Fish Room Fever, that will highlight for me. If it's something that you don't necessarily care if I see and read out, you can put at Chattanooga Ed, and he may or may not see it, depending upon what he's looking at that particular moment. But huge thanks for all of you being here. We've got 62 watching at 40 thumbs up. Appreciate the support for my buddy, Chattanooga Ed. So MedCal, that's a great question. If you don't mind me taking this before we get into the topic here.
Please do.
MedCal74M says, Fish Room Fever, I just started using ONIP tabs. What's wrong with them? So there's nothing necessarily wrong with them. But all of us that were extremely happy with the product before they went to the quote-unquote natural version really feel that there was a decline in quality when they changed that formulation. And a lot of that comes from the old ODIP tabs. When you stuck them on the glass, they held together really well. I wonder why it says I'm not in chat, Matt, because I am. But they held together really well. So the new ones, they tend to just kind of fall apart. I'm not even going into the nutritional aspects of it. I'm just looking at the fact that they don't hold together on the glass like the old ones do, and not a fan of them. They kind of just slough off into a mess fairly quickly versus the old formulation that held together pretty well, and you could get a nice quality feeding. It's also one of my favorite tricks for getting footage with sticking those ONIP tabs on there so you can get your fish to come up there and get in a good frame and stuff like that, but also just fun to watch them and get them together.
Yeah, the old ones were great because they held together so much longer. The new ones aren't bad for like fry feeding. Yeah. I really like it to stick it on there, and it kind of just crumbles for the fry, and it also works good with the rice fish. They have they micro size food, and so it works good for them. But yeah, I wish I had the good stuff still. And
absolutely.
Thank you, Bob, for telling me to go to live chat. I forgot to go to live chat in James until like the last 2 minutes. And I apologize if I didn't say hi to everybody. I'm sure I didn't, because I was kind of, whenever I had a free time to think, I was going to say hi to someone. That's my goal in James's. Because it's like James kind of watches it more on my stream, and I try to watch it a little better on his, since we have to think more for our own.
We have to use our brains.
Yeah. Okay. Well, my two top oddballs that I'm not going to talk about are Bishers, because I've already got them and I love them, and freshwater puffers. And I'm
leaving if we're not talking about them. I'm done.
Well,
goodbye.
You can them as your fish. Oh, great.
No, I'm just kidding.
But no, I mean, like, oh boy, somebody had a red-eye puffer they got today on Instagram. I can't remember who it was, but they're so cool. So I thought maybe we'll just do a whole stream on freshwater puffers someday. But these are fish that I don't commonly see when I go out to fish stores with Bob and James, and now with Bobby, we're taking Tennessee with us, and he's just an awesome guy.
Yeah. And,
yeah.
Well, I want to say, keep in mind, this is not just our local cities. You know, we go into other states fairly often, and across this state fairly often. So this is looking at a wide variety of fish, not just one local fish store in one town. And we still don't really see these fish.
Yeah. In the last 2 months, I bet we've been in 25 different fish stores. Yeah. Because we like going into them. Now, this one is probably the most common. There's one other that I see somewhat, but it always intrigues me. And so, I'm forgetting about my super chats.
Well, I've got them saved for you. I was going to jump back to them.
Oh, cool. Okay. Okay. Well, the first fish that I see often, but I never pull the trigger on, and it's not super common, but it's you can find it out there, is elephant nose fish. I really like those things. Do you know what I'm talking about, James?
I do.
They kind of look like a knife fish. Maybe they're related to knife fish.
Well, and this is the part of the show where I'm going to hide for a minute so I can do this, but I'll still be here talking to you.
Yep.
So I can bring the things up that you discuss.
Awesome. Yeah, James is awesome. He's also the production manager of the show. But they're a night fish. This is like the stuff that I found out about them. And so they're a night fish that like to come out, of course, nocturnal. They like muddy to soft substrates because they use that little nose in the substrate. So like a really soft sand. I might recommend using a real sand instead of even a cool sand for these guys. And I definitely wouldn't use Eco Complete because I wouldn't want to use anything that have a chance to scrape their nose up, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
They live 7 to 10 years. They kind of like soft water. That's another reason why I don't like them, because they prefer 6.5 to 7 in water. And they they're great at temperatures, though, 73 to 80. So they're basically like my guppies. They will eat my guppies at night. So that's another reason you got to be kind of careful with these guys.
Don't want to lose the guppies.
Yep. But so that's one of mine. And then this one I have never seen. And like I was telling James, if I ever see it at a fish auction, I'll probably bid on it. Now, Rob's my fish store guy, so he's probably going to write this down, then order it.
Right.
So don't do that to me right away. But the Indian glassfish, I don't know. Let's see a show of hands. How many people own Indian glassfish or see them? Very rarely, or ever. They're super cool. They get up to 5 inches long, but they're kind of a round fish. So they're kind of a large see-through fish, 5 inches. They live 8 years. They like the temperatures are easy, 72 to 80. They like high oxygen water with that that's very clean. Now look, that one Indian glassfish kind of looks like the ones they used to paint.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's the same species that gets 5 inches long. Or maybe the painted ones just never got that big.
Right. And that is the one that's right there I'm looking at. That's the same fish as that, just in terms of the body structure and all the scientific-y things.
Huh. You know, I don't ever see them painting those guys anymore either. Yeah, I guess maybe the glowfish took the painted fish out of the market. I haven't even thought about that. But I think it would be awesome to have like 6 of these guys swimming around in my 200-gallon tank.
Absolutely. Very cool looking fish. Not something you see very often again.
Yeah, I mean, that's like clear muscle tissue. And that's a big fish. I bet you they get a little bit more transparent. Translucent? Transparent. Translucent. You know, the transparency probably leaves as they get bigger. But still, I think they're a super cool fish. They like open water, so they don't like to hide. I like that about them. They're just a cool fish. Okay, so the Indian ice fish, or glassfish. I keep saying ice fish, but glassfish is on my list, James. So remember that when we go to auctions.
Absolutely.
Now, here's one that I do see at fish stores, and I have wanted, once I get everything set up in the fish room and I'm where I want everything at, I want to set up a tank and make my own stalactites and stalagmites, and I want Mexican tetras or cavefish. I love the cavefish. They're so cool. They're the fish with no eyes. I was surprised on how big they get. They get up to 4.5 inches. I didn't realize they got that big because I always thought they were kind of like stayed like a size of like a flat skirt tetra or something, because that's all you ever see at the fish stores are small ones. So they might get a lot more creepy as they get bigger. But that's one of my oddballs that I think would be cool that someday I am definitely going to have. And they eat everything. And I don't mean as in all of your live food, but they'll eat any flakes or pellets. They're great at catching food and eating it. You'd think they'd be handicapped, but they're not at all.
One of the things, and I've not kept them, but one of the things that I've heard is that they tend to not be aggressive, but do a lot of nipping damage to the other fish in the tank, simply because they take everything, because if it gets at their mouth, they take a bite out of it and they go, oh, is this food? Okay, no, you're not food. You're another fish. I don't want to eat you. But just something to keep in mind in terms of potential for wounds and infection. Is cool. That they do tend to nip whatever gets in the area of available food. And then if it's another fish, they don't try and eat it, but they're like, oh, I took a bite or a nip at you. I don't want to eat you, but now you've got some scales missing.
Yeah, and this is a fish that I'd want to keep in a tank, just for them.
Species only.
Yeah, species only tank. And I'd probably like put something just like a blue light in there or something, so it always looks like they're in a cave. I think that'd just be really cool.
Those would be super cool. And so would the translucents with those serene backgrounds.
Oh, wow. Yes.
The color change backgrounds. Not to plug that product and not to not plug that product, but I've never used them before. Now having fun playing with them and things like that, where that color, just like the axolotls, you get some really cool looks at them with different colors on the background.
Yep, so those are one of my cool ones, and we'll get to all the questions and stuff and comments as soon as I get through the list. It's not a very big list. I'm just kind of hitting some things, and then we'll discuss them. But the next thing is one that my buddy Rockin' Fish just got, is a butterfly fish. I think Dan from Dan's Fish is selling them now. They're like cousins to the arowana, but they're small. But if you actually look at them, you can tell that they've like the same trapdoor mouth that the arowana has. They're super cool. They kind of like dark tanks. Oh, excuse me. Tanks with a lot of plants so they can hide in them. They like soft water. They're, going back to the cave fish, they can handle about any type of water in a wide range of temperatures, 68 to 77.
Yeah, I will say, if you're wanting to, sorry.
Nope, go ahead.
Cut you off there. I just want to say, if you're going to look these up after the fact, you're maybe listening to this stream and want to check it out, look up African butterfly fish. If you just look up butterfly fish, you're going to get a saltwater fish. And that is not what we are talking about. So just a heads up there.
Yeah, or a freshwater butterfly.
Yeah.
But yeah, good point. So they like low light or heavily planted tanks to keep the light down because they just don't like to be in bright spots. But they're super cool. They like to hover around the top. They're just a really neat fish. So that's one I've wanted since I was a little kid at James.
It's one of those fish that can scare you into thinking it's dead if you're not used to how it acts, because it does. It just kind of floats around the surface most of the time, motionless, just hanging out. Very, very cool fish. Very neat. As you can see, all the different finish that they've got. I do like them. Just a fun fish. Really fun fish. I have seen those a couple times, but not fairly often. I know I've seen them up at Aquatic Marine at my local fish store before, amongst other places.
Yeah, I think they were really, really big in the early 90s and maybe late 80s. Because they were like the new fish at the time. And
Gotcha.
So everybody had to have them. And that's kind of like when I was in high school and I was like always wanting them, but I knew I only had one tank. And if I put them in there, it would eat everything. Because I had lots of little fish. So never got one. But that is on my bucket list, I guess you'd say. Maybe that's what I should have said. This is my bucket list fish.
There you go.
Oh, well. So let's go to my next page. But those are just really cool. Now, this is a tank. These next two fish I'd like to get together in a single tank. And because they don't look alike, but they like the same water, the same foods. They're like same temperament. And the first one's a rope fish. And we know Haley at Oddball Aquatics, she is the rope fish expert. And James and I have both said if we ever find a rope fish at one of these auctions that's over 15 inches, we're going to buy it for Haley because they don't start breeding until after they're 15 inches, I think, or 15 years. You know what? It's 15 years. I don't know how big they get after 15 years. Well, if we find a big one, we're buying it for Haley.
Absolutely.
But they're a nocturnal fish that kind of likes it dark. So if you keep a dark tank, they're going to be all over the place. Which is so, like if you get any type of floating plant, they're going to love it because it just kind of makes everything dark, and they'll be all over the place, being curious and having fun. But if you keep a bright tank, they're going to be hiding until lights out, pretty much.
Well, and I think Haley has the coolest rope fish setup on YouTube, at least that I've seen, and definitely the coolest I've seen in person. And it's almost, I a pond terrarium enclosure. So I recommend you go check out Oddball Aquatics and look at that. It's super, super cool. And she knows her stuff, like Ed said.
And they're a lungfish also. So they're able to, well, not a lungfish, they're a fish with a lung. Gosh, I didn't say that right.
Labyrinth fish?
Yes. But, well, they're a fish that can breathe oxygen also. And so Haley has set it up so her little pond actually keeps about is it 100% humidity? Because they can stay out of the water as long as they don't get dried out. So they can come out on her like planted dirty areas to eat. I think she has mill bugs and little crickets and things like that for them to hunt if they want. I don't know if they ever come out. I should ask her sometime. But they're definitely, she set it up for them. Wonderful. So, but if you get them for your fish tank, they don't need to come out of the water. Just make sure you got a really good seal on the tank, because if there's a way for them to get out, they will.
Absolutely.
She had some in other tanks. I think maybe they were grow out tanks or something. And she had tin foil like piled up in the corners, like where the air tubes and stuff go into the tank, just so they couldn't get a way out of there. Because she said they will find a way if they can. But super cool fish. I like the rope fish. They're so cute. They're a really nice fish. They're going to eat anything that fits in their mouth. They're kind of like a bichir in that way. A bichir is going to, if it can fit in their mouth, they're going to eat it. Well, these guys are pretty much the same way. But they aren't going to go out looking to bite chunks out of big fish. You know, they're just nice guys. And the perfect tank mate with them would be the upside down catfish. And do you want to go to that? Because that's my next fish on the list.
Working on it right now.
This catfish gets 3 to 4 inches long. So it's quite a bit smaller than the rope fish, but the rope fish, its mouth won't ever get big enough to swallow the catfish. So, but I mean, their temperatures, everything is pretty much identical. They both like driftwood, but the catfish really like driftwood to hang out on and caves. But the ropefish also like caves too, as long as the cave's big enough. But
I've got one of these in the 110-gallon community planted tank. His name is Freakazoid. Yeah, they are really cool fish. I was seeing him out and active in the open areas a lot more in that tank. He used to be in a 75-gallon tank that the Exodons are now in. Before the Exodons were there, and he always hid under the cave structures in there. Like always. I didn't see him unless I snuck in here at night. But I've seen him out several times with the lights on in that larger planted area, because it's got a lot of little places he can duck and dodge if he feels uncomfortable. But they're really, really fun fish to watch, and they do stay upside down. I don't know that I've ever seen him not upside down before.
Yeah, they're just so cool. I don't know how you can handle just having one.
It was one of those things that, you buy used tanks, and sometimes you're like, here, these fish are left over type things. But again, it's never seeing it previously. It's kind of like, I even have forgotten he's in there sometimes, almost like a Coolie Loche. And you're like, what was that? And you're like, oh, that was Freakazoid.
I bet the boys love it too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just a fun fish. So that's on my list of things that I'd like to get someday. But like I said, I want to get those together with the rope fish. So, I think the two fish would get along great together. And I mean, they're kind of, I guess they're both kind of bot guys, but I mean, they're both all over the place if they feel comfortable. Okay. Now here is one of my true bucket fish. I have never seen one in person. And so it's the only way I think I could find it is maybe a rare fish auction or something. And it's the thermometer knife fish. I don't know if any of you guys have ever, it's going to be interesting going back over, seeing what people are saying about the fish I'm talking about. But the thermometer rope fish is amazing.
Rope fish or knife fish?
Oh, knife fish. Knife fish.
Okay. I was just checking.
I can't read my own writing. they like sandy bottoms. They like a pH kind of soft, 6.2 to 7.2. My pH is normally about 7.3, so I think he'd be fine. A little harder is not going to be too bad. The temperatures are a little warm, 76 to 82. Kind of a small temperature window, really. But they get up to a foot long. They're not an aggressive fish. They get along with other fish. They'll eat like guppies, so I wouldn't put it in a guppy tank. But I would like to put these in with my threadfin acara because I think they'd just be awesome in that tank. Okay, I got to move my chat so that way I can see what it looks like. Yeah, they just look so cool. I ought to ask Bob if he has one. Bob might even have one. Bob has such cool stuff.
He really does. Shout out to Kaler Aquatics.
Yeah.
Kaler's Aquatics and Reptiles now, I think.
Yep.
He changed it up on me.
Yep. Bob did, but he's got now 3 reptiles. So that's pretty awesome. Of course, he's also got birds, so
yeah.
Maybe Bob's everything. Oh well. Let's don't talk about Bob. Let's talk about the fish. Bob, if you see these fish ever at a fish store, let me know. But yeah, these guys are just super cool. I would love to get like 2 or 3 of them. I'm sure I'd have to grow it out. And Riddle, he also has cats too. Okay, don't mean to keep digressing. I got to focus on the thing. But the thermometer fish, super cool fish. And then the last fish is one that I have almost bought a couple times in my life now. One of my local stores, literally in my town, I've got a fish store called Ponds and Plants, and they specialize in, ponds, but they have also very bizarre things also. Like you can get tarantulas and flying squirrels or sugar squirrels, sugar flyers. I don't know what they're called.
Sugar gliders?
Yeah, sugar gliders. They've got lizards with no feet or legless lizards or something. I don't know. They just got all these other animals for sale there that always makes it a bizarre treat to go in and check out. But they always have a couple lungfish. And I almost come close to buying the lungfish a few times. The thing about the lungfish is they pretty much have to be by themselves because they've got razor teeth and they'll eat anything with them that they can catch. They like caves. They live 25 years. This is the African lungfish. I think there's an Australian lungfish. It's the oldest living freshwater fish, but we can't buy those. And then there's also a South American lungfish. But and actually I think my pet store might local place here, Ponds and Plants, might have South Americans and Africans.
I don't remember which one it was we saw at Aquatic Marine a couple weeks ago when we did the trip together. Remember they had one as well. It was a good size one. It was in the bottom tank.
Oh, Aquatic Marine is your shop.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like trying to remember which. Yeah. We've been to so many places.
We have.
Yeah, I forgot. Well, next time we go there, we'll have to check it out and see. Well, if it's still there. But you can. They shrimp, prawns. I've seen people feeding them earthworms with you want to feed them with a tweezer. The earthworms or whatever you're feeding them because you don't want them to bite your fingers. But they're awesome. But they also, what a lot of people don't know is they also eat plants. So they'll love to eat algae wafers every so often and things like that. But a weird thing about them is they'll go months without eating. And if it freaks people out, but they will just stop eating for a few months at a time. It's really weird.
Well, and I think that's one of those things that just revalidates doing your research. You've got a fish that lives, multiple decades and can go long periods without eating. Definitely not something that you want to get into without having done due diligence and finding out more about that fish.
Yeah, and they can get big, up to 40 inches. So, That's pretty big. They can handle about any pH, so that's not a big deal. Their temperature range is kind of warm, 76 to 86 temp. But yeah, they're just a really bizarre fish. You know, some people think they're eels, but they do have kind of like these little arms, wiggly arms in the front. Just super cool. But okay, James, is there any rare fish that you like that if you see you want it?
Okay, so there are a couple things. And bizarre or rare for me is not necessarily always regarding species. Sometimes it can be size. There are a lot of fish that we maybe see commonly, but we don't see them at certain sizes. Or older fish. So a lot of times it might be a larger version of a bichir, which is what I was joking about. I'm leaving if we're not talking bichirs. You see them smaller a lot, and sometimes you see them medium size, but you don't oftentimes see larger ones. And yes, you get less time with the fish, the older they are, of course, depending upon lifespan and all that. But a lot of times that is something that I look at like, well, I've never come across one that big before. That would be perfect. So case in point with my ornate bichirs. They're like that at this point. They're really, really, really big. I usually don't see them at that size. So I have the option to, if I wanted to add more ornates in there, the ornatopenis, that I either have to buy the smaller ones and grow them out, or look for the big ones, because if I stick smaller ones in there, they're just going to get eaten. So things of that nature often play in for me in terms of quote unquote rear fish or rear finds. Going, oh, that's a big enough fish that I wouldn't normally see in that size that I could put in with the fish that I have now that's not going to get eaten. And surprise on this other one, piranhas. More oftentimes than not, if I see something besides your red bellies, I'm very likely to pick those up because you really don't see them very often. So especially if it's someplace that I can trust what they're marking. A lot of the piranhas look very, very, very similar when they're younger. So sometimes, unless you're really into them and thoroughly researched, they could label them a lot of different things and that not actually be the one you're getting. And plus collection points, is that a Peruvian black or is it from another area? So that's one thing I look for, is if I can find something that I feel is properly labeled and I can somewhat validate that is the actual fish, I'm often inclined to go for those purchases, especially because that means not having to ship something overnight, from across the country in order to get that piranha in. Go ahead.
I would love if you would make an educational video on just piranhas, and I will help you put it together. Like, I've videotaped the piranhas here at the aquarium, at the Tennessee Aquarium.
Right.
And I took a photo of the name of them so that way I'll know it when I show it to you. But hopefully it's not what you've got. So, they're not red bellies.
That is something that I have been working on for almost a year now in terms of getting different underwater footage. And it's something that I'm not going to complete and publish until after they're in the 220 gallon.
Gotcha.
Because one of the main things I see with piranhas, and sorry, this is one of my things I digress on, is a lot of times they're not in proper tank sizes, as are a lot of fish, but piranha in particular, you'll see, 5 red bellies shoved into a 29 gallon tank. And these are fish that can get fairly large. So I want to get them into the 220 before I do the video on them, especially from an educational perspective, because I want people to be aware of the size of tank that you need, especially because a lot of times you need to, with the red bellies and the caribe, which I've kept both, and I've spawned red bellies and spawned some other piranhas. You need to have larger groups typically. That's one of those fish where spreading the aggression out really, really matters. It's even more so than with African cichlids. African cichlids can definitely do some damage and kill other fish, but these guys have teeth, obviously. So it's one of those things, if you've got 3 of them in there and the 2 bigger ones, decide that they are going to take care of the smaller one, it's just a matter of seconds before that fish is beyond saving. And I have seen that happen before, even in, not that I'm calling my stuff the best kept tanks, but even in tanks where I've had them to the comfort level of breeding in, I have seen, I've walked in and found just the head of a piranha before, where the smallest one gets picked off. So that's something I'm definitely going to do. I don't consider myself an expert on anything, so to speak. I just have experience to speak from. And, typically speaking, if it's something that you're breeding successfully, you're doing something right. So I definitely am working on that, but I don't want to, like right now, film them. I've got, 2 dozen Caribe in a 100-gallon tank. That is essentially a quarantine tank right now. I'm doing a lot of things, taking my knowledge and resources of keeping schooling piranha to make sure that doesn't end in disaster. I've not lost any fish. There is the standard aggression, but I'm doing things like the extra feeding, extra water changes, keeping the temperature cool, all the things I can do to kind of fight aggression and stay as far away as possible from any of the known spawning triggers that I've used in the past. But I don't want to go, here's a 100-gallon tank with a couple dozen piranha. Let me tell you about how to keep them, because that's just not right. That's like, here, let me put 2 Oscars in a 20-gallon tank and tell you how you should keep them, or my recommendations for keeping them. That's just not information that I want to portray every way.
I would like to just see like the differences. I mean, I know the sparkling and the red belly.
Yep.
Blacks are just like darker on the tops.
Blacks are Cirrosalamus. They're one of those that you don't keep in groups. Most piranhas you will keep 1 per tank. There are some that you can keep in schools. Typically your red bellies that you see everywhere, and then the Caribe, which are a lot less frequently seen. I've never seen one in a store ever.
Nice.
Even the stores that keep red bellies all the time, or at least did, in the past. I had to order those online, but they're the most aggressive schooling fish of the Pygocentris.
I assume they all like to be in school since they're tetras, right?
Well, I mean, they are technically, but the Cirrosalamus classification, pretty much all of those you're going to want 1 per tank. So like your black piranha, the blue diamond, which is just a color variant of the black piranha, the Gary, they're pretty much all of them, but the Pygocentris, which are your red bellies. Think the ones that have kind of the softer rounded face, pretty much those are schooling, just to kind of simplify it as best as I can and group classify everything. The ones that have the more pointed mouths, the more pointed jaw structure, those are pretty much all 1 fish per tank, just because there's so much aggression that anything that goes in there, including your hand, like those are a fish I would never stick my hand in the tank voluntarily with a black piranha, just because the aggression level is so high. You can see videos of people have these massive, 12, 14-inch black piranhas, and they'll get their hand near the tank, and those things just trying to get through the glass to just rip them apart, because they don't want anything around them. They don't want to be bothered. Leave me the heck alone.
So they're going to go into my category of 1 fish, 1 tank list.
Yeah.
And like, I kind of try to put them in order on, if I had to have 1 tank for 1 fish, Lungfish would be the top of the line for me.
Right.
Flower horn would be the bottom of the line.
Right. Mine's going to be piranha at the top. And
I would put the piranha, I think, at the bottom too. Because I love seeing the piranhas in a school. They're so neat, guys. James's look so neat. They just look like bluegill in there.
Yeah.
And I'd be just as happy with a tank full of bluegill. Probably. Nothing personal, James. But I think the bluegill are amazing colors and stuff. But still, I think it looks really cool, the bluegill and your piranha, the same idea. I just love their dynamic. They work together.
Absolutely. So the only other thing that I would mention, which is not necessarily a rare one, but kind of on the dream list, if you will, especially if you ask my son, is a stingray, freshwater stingray. That's one of those things that one day when the fish warehouse becomes a reality and we have an off-site fish room, we'll have a setup for a freshwater stingray. That's kind of been his thing ever since he's been interested in the hobby, and continues to be. So that's it for me. You do have some super chats before this chat jumps, because I know it's going to try and jump on me. Way back before we got started, Michelle Kinsey threw that $5 super sticker with that chilling exercise pair saying, "How's it going?"
Thank you, Michelle. You're so sweet.
And then we had Mike's Aquatics and Things with the Karate Fox.
All right, my favorite.
$5 super chat, or super sticker rather, and then it jumped on me as soon as I scrolled to that. Hopefully I can get back up to the others. If not, mods, if one of y'all will please throw me a refresher. Otherwise, I have to go through multiple logins and outs to get to Chattanooga Ed's studio. I know we had a couple other ones, and I know our awesome mods will remind me of that. So as far up as I can get is 10:43 p.m. Eastern Time. MSC Aquatics is Fisher Fever. I think my 240 will have is that different spelling of Vieja? Waru, Oscars, and maybe Severance.
Oh, Walrus.
Very, very cool. All awesome fish. Love them very much. I'm really looking forward to that. And I've been having a lot of fun talking to you about the tanks on the Fish Room Fever community tab there.
Thank you, Mike. Mike just gave a 500 cent super chat. Well, no, yeah, that'd be 500. Yes.
500 cents, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, I should be better at math. I had another McDonald's incident today where the guy said my chicken sandwich and tea was $6.35. So I gave him a $10 bill, 35 cents, and a $1 bill. And when I handed it to him, he looked at the $1, didn't understand, and gave it back. And I was like, no, this way you can just give me a $5.
Yeah.
And then he went, oh. I don't understand what McDonald's is doing. But thank you so much, Mike. But you see, I gave him I was thinking about giving that guy the business in my head, and then I couldn't even say $5. Thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate it. And Sean gave me $9.99. Thank you so much, Sean.
How's it going, Peck?
I hope that you're prepared to play games with Sean tomorrow.
Absolutely. It's
awesome.
On the schedule.
Awesome. So we'll talk to you, Sean, tomorrow to figure out what time we're going to meet up.
Sean doesn't like me. He never comes to my live streams. No, I'm just picking. I'm picking on Sean because he did mention it. He's like, my schedule works out so that I'm never available until after your shows are. I'm like, dude, it's fine, but I had to give you a hard time, Sean. Had to.
Oh, that's cool though. Well, I'll make sure that I spend at least $10 on his food tomorrow.
So, go ahead.
I do need to go to the aquarium tomorrow to buy gaskets for my aquarium. Okay. Or whatever those are called. Bulkheads, yes.
So Fishaholic says, those valve plants behind you, dude, how do you grow so big, man? My Italian valve just doesn't want to grow. I use root tabs, have some runners, but stay small. What's the secret? So I don't have any big valve currently showing, but I'm sure you've seen like the 3-foot valve I had in the past. That one's a crinum right there. I know it doesn't show up well, but that's a crinum calamastrato. And then I've got, but basically my secret is I never gravel back my tanks with valve in them. And they were always heavily stocked. And I never used fertilizer or root tabs anyways. I did use some Easy Green for some of the rhizome plants and the more water column feeding plants, but I never gravel backed it. So when I took that tank down, that was a major thing. I had to gravel back it and clean that gravel out when I moved them around. But I have just always found, I guess, the right level of stocking versus water changing, and then let the plants take advantage of it. One thing you may look at is how hard or soft your water is. Mine stays relatively neutral, maybe a little above neutral. But that's always been my quote-unquote secret, if you will, is just I don't gravel back. I let all the fish poop get in there and feed those plants, and it grows like nuts. That's one thing I'll be using in the 220-gallon Piranha tank is the valve, because I know I can grow it 30 inches plus because that tank's 30 inches tall. I know that I can grow that stuff all the way out and make a nice, dense foresty area, if you will, to give them kind of a hideaway.
I left a foot in my fish tank where I cut it.
Yep.
I just randomly grabbed one out. This is a 20 long.
Nice.
So it's only a foot tall tank. I use the father fish substrate, sand cap. And I literally have to cut it. I cut it like once a month, and it's all back down to 1 foot.
Yep. The dirted method does definitely work as well. The dirted tank with the sand cap has done very well for my vow also. Paul Sterro mentioned Empire Gudgeons. Absolutely beautiful fish. Glad to have you here, Paul. Let me roll and scroll on through here. I think some things were highlighted for you, but things are okay. And Fishaholic again. Have you had any Synodontis petrola catfish? I just got 5 online for my Mbuna tank. They are so cool to watch. I have not. Tian Aqua, Bobby has them, doesn't he?
I don't know if he has any yet. He has the other type of
Synodontis. Talking about it. Okay.
Yeah, he wants some. I've got 12 of them.
Nice. That's
I
right.
love them. Yeah, they're growing and they're doing super good. I bought them at a flea show. How am I? I almost said flea market, and then I went fish show and went flea show at a fish swap in Cincinnati. The guy had 12 for $40. Well, he said 10 to 12. He threw in every bag, and they almost all looked like they had 11, but one had 12, so I grabbed it. And he was also selling adults 6 for $40. I wish I would have just bought the guy out, because I could have taken them to my local fish store and he could have sold them for a profit. But I want to eventually get them going in a 40 breeder. And it's my favorite tank that LRB has in his whole house is his Synodontis tank. And he's kind of got a cave set up, and they just look like sharks going in circles on the substrate. I love it. So that's what I plan on doing.
Absolutely. No, Pectec, you're fine. I'm just picking on you because you mentioned it specifically the other day that you felt bad. No, I appreciate you. I really do, my friend. Patrick Hardy says, I always enjoy watching Fish Room Fever and Chattanooga Edge show back to back. Thank you both. Patrick, thank you. Appreciate you being here. We've got 80 people watching. That's awesome. That's something that I'm glad we've been able to grow over the past year in doing the back-to-back shows and doing the collaborations and the co-hosting. So I'm super glad that we've been able to drag everybody around back and forth between the shows, and that you all enjoy the time so much that you come to both of them. All right.
Mike's asking how Nico's doing. Nico, I think, is actually over at my mom and dad's. He's taking advantage. My mom broke her arm, and
sucks.
Yeah, it really sucks. She wiped out, hit her head on the sink and the floor. So she had to have a CAT scan. They were really worried that she had hurt her head pretty bad. They made her stay overnight in the hospital. But turns out it's okay. She just has 2 big knots on her head. She forgot to take her cane. She's got 2 artificial knees, an artificial hip. She's got her spine fused together. She's kind of a walking wreck. And I don't know why she wasn't using her cane, except she really needed to use the restroom. And she wiped out really hard. So tomorrow we're going to take her to the hospital to the specialist to see if she's got to have surgery on her arm or not. But Nico likes to take advantage of people when they can't move. So I imagine he's probably like sitting probably right at her feet or at her knees or something. But baby cat's here. But Mom doesn't really care for the cats normally, but when she's hurt, she likes them sitting around her, so that's nice.
They've done that a lot to Shy with her being stuck in that recliner pretty much. The cats are like, oh, you're going to be here all the time. We can just come lay on you whenever we want.
Yeah, and you see, my mom's cat won't sit on her. So my cats do. Well, baby cat hates Mom, and Mom hates baby cat, and it's because Mom uses a cane, and baby cat thinks she's going to hit her with a cane. So she always runs for my mom. And so my mom thinks it's personal. But Nico, he just loves everybody. So, yeah, he's taking advantage of Mom right now. He's at their house, or their side of the house.
Zachary, I'll get to your question in a minute. One thing I do want to point out regarding our topic tonight, Of course, it's been mentioned finding these things online. That's definitely a viable option. But one of the great things that I love is the resource of like the Tennessee Fish Mafia, the Fish Fam. And I say this with Sean being in here. I was going to mention it before I saw him. We're all very much connected to the point where we've been in other states, and Sean has, sent a message and said, "Hey, will you see if they have this fish?" And I've done the same. And it's great to have that resource of other people, especially with us traveling to so many different places. Of if you see this fish, let me know. Because a lot of times, again, it's location based. So things that are common or uncommon here might be vice versa in other areas. Again, Aquatic Marine, my local fish store, and I know this also applies to Rob Aquatic Aesthetics. They do a great job of having some oddball things, some rare things. Last time we walked into Aquatic Marine, they had some awesome bichers that were like this. They've been keeping like farloillas in stock almost constantly for quite a while now, something that you don't really see a lot of times. The Lungfish, again, all the oddball plecos. They had several other things. They had the freshwater stingrays in. So it's nice to have a local fish store like that not only commits to the community, but also to bringing in some of those lesser seen items. And then teaching people about those, going, well, if you're going to get this fish, you need to know it lives, 25 years. You don't want to put this, thing in a 20-gallon tank because it gets this big, and vice versa, and so on.
Well, Aquatic Aesthetics has horse-faced loaches.
Yeah.
And that was one of my almost fish on here, except I see them every time I go in there, and I don't buy them just because I don't have a place for them right now. But I would love to get just a sand, no dirt, because all my tanks are sand capped. I just don't have just sand. Well, except in my giant tank. But I'm afraid I've got big fish that'll eat them. So I need to get a tank that's just sand for them, because they're super cool. I love the horsefish.
So let me bring it back up so I can actually read it. Zachary Walker says, "What do you guys think is going to be the next big thing so we can start breeding them now?" So here's what I'm going to recommend, because I get to see this kind of secondhand going everywhere with Ed. If you could breed quality guppies, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be fancy strains, even just, or special strains, even if it's just quality, generic, fancy guppies in large numbers. Everybody wants those things. When people hear that Ed has thousands of guppies, everybody's like, well, if you'll sell me some. Local fish stores all the time are looking for a good, reliable source for hardy guppies, because 9 times out of 10, you go buy fancy guppies at the local fish store, and they've had to bring them in from a wholesaler. And typically, as most of us in the guppy world know, you're just trying to get that first drop from them. You don't really have the expectancy of the fish you buy surviving, so you're trying to get that first batch of fry in your water. So if you can provide, especially in quantity, quality, hardy fish that aren't just going to die when they hit the next person's tank, I really think that's kind of a thing now, but that would be the next big thing, because nobody's really doing it. Breeding specific strains is great, and the high-end guppies, but there are not a lot of people who are just like, I'm going to start this massive muck guppy thing where I'm producing thousands of guppies a month, so that I can give a good local supply of hardy fish that, because the new hobbyist doesn't know that fish is probably going to die. And so fish stores do the best they can to weed out the ones that are likely not to survive, but still, you don't know if those guppies have come from maybe a higher mineral content, with conditions they've been in. Really, for people that are experienced with it, we look at them and we go, I'm going to buy all these females because they look like they're going to have drops. They're already pregnant. And most of them probably will not survive, but I'll have the first generation fry in my water, and then I can build a stronger fish from there with the next generation. So that would be my thing, is the next big thing, if you will.
Yeah, I could probably breed more guppies quicker and faster if I turned up the temperature and put in salt. But I don't want to do that, because I want my guppies to live in anybody's generic water, And I like plants.
Yeah, in terms of the next big thing,
we've got some rice fish.
Yeah, rice fish. No, it's fun because bettas are awesome fish, but they've come back around on the revolution of being the big thing right now. I mean, that's what's trending, not just on here, but also on other platforms, like the beta specific content creators on other platforms do a lot better oftentimes than just the overall fish keepers like us that keep a little bit of everything. So that I would say is the hot fish right now. Not that people haven't always kept them and people won't continue to keep them, but that's really the big thing right now. I feel is everywhere you see is betas. Yeah. In that terms of what's the next big thing, I really don't know.
I see more and more Beischer.
Yeah, Beischers are coming up.
Kind puffer fish. If somebody could figure out an easy way to breed those, because everybody loves puffers.
Which they're kind of in the top 3 right now too with the popularity thing. There are a lot of people jumping on they're adorable guys. I don't know. It's kind of hard to predict the next big thing. I really wish shrimp would take off. I think that if more shrimp were available in more places at a decent price, and when I say decent price, I mean that from the perspective of the new hobbyist. People that have shrimp, we may go in expecting, that's a $15 shrimp. That's a $25 shrimp. I think if we could bring some of that into the average fish keeper's mindset of, okay, it's, $6 for blue dreams instead of $15-20 in local pet stores. Something like that. If we could get that more on a mainstream level. I know we've got local fish stores like Rob does a great job with shrimp and great prices on them. Yeah. I've gotten shrimp from Aquatic Aesthetics, of course. I think that would be a big thing that could be popularized that people would really get into and enjoy. If you didn't go in and go, oh my goodness, and I'm not going to call any names out, but I've been in other local fish stores here and it's like, they want $25 for this orange shrimp. Yeah, I know I can get them for 10, which is still not, which is, a good economical price, I think, on, certain lines or whatever. The average hobbyist is going to go, well, there's a cherry shrimp for, and this is still overpriced, but $7 at this particular store. There's a cherry shrimp for $6 or $7. That one's red, that one's orange, and they want $20 for that one. Why am I going to spend $20 for that one when I want just cheap shrimp? I'm going to get that. That's just me, and I digress.
There is a place that I would really like us to go visit, James, that specializes in shrimp, because there's one line of shrimp I want to buy from them. Okay. And it's in one of the states I used to live in. So it's going to take a little while to drive there, but it would be worth it because and I think it would do great. Oh, look, Nola Jane's here. I'm going to pop a little cat in a box.
Always up for an adventure. Eric the Bell says, agree. Fish Room Fever would love to have more shrimp. I think that's what he was adding. Yeah, more shrimp, that is. Absolutely. Aquatic Aesthetics. Yeah, Rob there says shrimp are very popular in Chattanooga. Yeah, I could, I don't want to say kind of tell, but that makes sense to me looking at your supply and the pricing. And then I've seen, your unboxings and things. And there's enough of a demand that you don't have to pay an exuberant amount of money and then mark it up to stay in business because you can buy the quantity versus, I have to pay a lot of money because I only need to order 2 dozen shrimp. There's that plays into it when there's a local market for it. And people come in and order a lot, that lets you buy more, of course, which means you can usually get a better deal the more you buy so that you can offer a better deal and still keep that margin that allows you to operate. So.
And he's selling them to people, and they're hopefully breeding, and they're bringing them back to him.
Absolutely.
So it's just a great circle. Mm-hmm. I know James has sold a lot of shrimp to his local fish stores over the years, too.
I've even sent some out to people like Mike's Aquatics and things. I believe it was Mike that hadn't had shrimp before. And I was like, well, here, let me just send you some. And there he is in the chat. Says, James sent me about a dozen or so cherry shrimp. There's a bazillion of them now. Yeah, they multiply rather quickly. So that's, just my thoughts. Yeah, cherry shrimp are $3 there. And a lot of places they are, but you still find places that They're not. And whether that be that they're paying more or they just know that they can get more. And there's probably a little bit of both going on depending upon where you go.
And some of the prices also are the grades. Because MC says the cherry shrimp are $3 there. And that's an awesome price. That's great. But like a Bloody Mary is basically just a cherry shrimp, but it's got red legs.
Right.
And it's going to be closer to $10 to $12 just because. Okay. And when you're going to try to, if you're going to competitions with these shrimp, like we don't care what color their legs are. But when you're going to a competition, they got to look at something to make it look different than the rest of the pack. So they're going to look at the legs to see if the legs match the top of the body, the shell. If the legs are transparent, which most of our cherry shrimp are, it's not going to be worth as much. Right. So don't yell at your fish store if they have Bloody Marys for $15.
Right.
And say, well, MCs are only $3.
That's one of those things I don't think you're going to see a lot of. Similar to guppies, I really think you could compare it there with guppies. Your average aquarist, somebody new to the hobby, probably not here in the fish tube right now. They don't understand the difference between a couple dollars on a fancy guppy and a $50 pair of blue Arctic volcanoes or, specialty things. Yep. They just look and go, this guppy's $5 and this one's $25. That doesn't make sense to me. And then a lot of times people can even get offended, like, well, I think they're trying to screw me because they're charging $25 for a guppy. And it's the same with shrimp, like you mentioned, the grades. There are things that I think sometimes we forget as avid hobbyists because we're familiar with grades and different lines. And okay, I know that Lucas's A-Team Blue Dream are worth more money than just a generic blue Neocaridina that you don't know if it's mixed. You don't know how it's going to produce offspring. Your average hobbyist that's just getting into it, just walking into the store, just casually keeps aquariums, is not going to necessarily understand why this blue shrimp is, we'll just throw a number, $6 and this one's $15. They're just going to go, well, they had blue shrimp at the other store for $6 and now these are $15. So this store must be ripping me off. And I know fish stores take that into account very much. They just look and go, it just a lot of times doesn't make sense for me to keep even a $25 a pair set of guppies, which I'm seeing a little bit of that change. I am seeing some of the lower end, if you will, guppy lines coming in along with the fancies at local fish stores. So that's awesome.
Well, when Prestige Aquatics, these guys specialize in high-end guppies, went to the fish show, I was keeping my fingers crossed that they would sell because I didn't know if people would spend $45 or $40 on a pair of high-end. And I think they sold almost everything.
They did. And I think that's one of the great things about the swaps is that generally the people that are coming specifically to go to a swap, they have a little bit more understanding, typically speaking, so that they can look and evaluate and they know there's a reason for that price difference versus maybe people that were just coming that day because they wanted to go to Aquatic Aesthetics, which is where it was hosted at, and didn't realize there was a fish swap. Maybe they're just kind of into tanks, but they're not, fish nerds. They might have walked and looked at those guppies and go, oh, these are $45 for a trio? What? Where you and I know it's well worth it. And, we pay those prices.
Well, I felt terrible because I had swordtail guppies. And I thought about this afterwards, like 2 days later. This girl said, oh, they're hybrids. They're mixed between two different fish. And so I said, well, yeah, they're mixed between Endlers and guppies. But, most guppies are. And I was trying to explain it. And I bet you anything she thought they were half swordtails and half guppies. And, those two they can't do it. Yeah. And I felt terrible. I wish because she looked at me like I was just talking some weird language. Like, and so, oh, well, yeah, it happens.
A couple more comments here as we're coming down to the end of the stream. Postero says, dwarf cichlids, cribs, pistos, rams, etc., highly intelligent, bright colors, and they live in smaller tanks. So those really are wonderful fish. One day when I get the fish warehouse, as I'm calling it now, The Fish Palace. That's what I said the other day. I
Ooh.
said the Fish Palace, and that stuck with me. So that's what I'm going to call it from now on. One
like
day when the Fish Palace is up, and I thought about Pleco Palace, but I think Fish Palace because some people will hear Pleco and just think it's a bunch of giant common Plecos. But once the Fish Palace is set up, that's something that I would like to do.
Hopefully when that happens, we'll just have one channel together all the time, and I can buy a stingray for the Fish Palace also.
Ooh. Paul Sterrigan says, dropped a nice piece of change on 5 discus. Quality comes with cost. It absolutely does, and I don't disagree with you one bit. But I think oftentimes as avid hobbyists, we forget that there are a lot of people out there that don't understand that, or maybe they're not aware of different grades, like we talked about, different levels of a fish, different qualities. They don't even understand that there are different qualities. They just go, well, this is a guppy. This is a guppy. Why is the price so different? Same with shrimp, and even discus. We understand if you're going to Discus Hans. I don't know Discus Hans prices, but we know that there's a quality inherent with those fish that we would give more money for than maybe just a generic. I think Ed froze on me. Hopefully, there it is. A generic random guy on Craigslist that's trying to get the same price out of his backyard discus.
And you know what? Discus Hans is not that bad. I had Discus Hans like 25 years ago, and they are selling Discus Hans discus that's all, in Knoxville or in Nashville at the Aquatic Critter, and I think they're only like $25 for an individual, and that's crazy good. And I think that's what I paid 25 years ago at a cichlid convention in Chicago from him. Like, he had a booth where he was selling them. So yeah, he's really fair, I think. Or maybe those are just super discounted prices, but his fish are amazing.
There we go. Not all the Jane Fish Rich. You win the contest. There is no prize except for a handshake and hug. It says Aquatic Palace because more than just fish. Yep, that's it. Aquatic Palace. I like it. There we go. So any last minute questions? We are an hour and 7 minutes in. 81 people watching. Appreciate y'all being here. 71 thumbs up. So y'all are about keeping that.
Wow.
Appreciate you helping out and supporting my buddy Chattanooga Ed here. I do want to mention, because some people ask about this in like Steam Pod Aquatic stream, and I meant to mention it on my stream earlier. I'll mention it next week. There will be Aquaticon Knoxville, Tennessee this year. It is going to happen. No specific date yet. Still a lot of variables to be worked out, but Aquaticon Tennessee will be happening fall of this year. Because I know even Bob messaged me. It's like, hey, people are asking about this event. It's going to happen. Further details will be coming as we look into things. There are other things that we have to look at, but Aquaticon Tennessee is a yes, especially now that we've got like Aquashella is a go, and the fish things are a go, so to speak, and states opening up and all of that stuff. It's been really tricky to try and plan something with not knowing how the pandemic was going to play out, but it is a go, and I'm looking forward to it. I know we've got a lot of people that are still committed to coming this year that were committed from last year. A lot of awesome fish tube people that will be there, assuming that it's on a date they're able to. And that's, of course, something as planners that we will factor into and looking at what is the best date for everybody. So we're not going to do it like the same week as Aquashella. We're going to make it to where it's something you don't have to pick. Do I go to this or that? We're going to make it easy for people to come to and hang out. It's going to be a great time, really family focused and hobbyist focused. And that's probably all the details I'm going to give at this moment. But a lot of the things we talked about in the works last time, same things coming around this year.
Aqua Balls is next. George is super awesome. Thank you, Mariddle, for letting us know. What time does he go? Is it? I hope it wasn't 11:30, because we will start shutting down a lot quicker. If it's at 12, then everybody go check him out. He's super great.
Absolutely.
He does fantastic fish. Just a great guy. Super nice. And anybody know about Dave? Is he had to go back to work, so maybe that's why he's had to give up his spot or something.
go check out that Peck Tech guy. He's a little channel. He's trying to make it work. You know, we just want to support the small people in the hobby like him. Do everything we can. So go check him out.
Yeah, that Sean Peck guy, he puts out a video every Saturday or Sunday night. I don't know.
Yeah, he does a midnight release. Yeah.
But I think it's like Saturday, but it's actually Sunday because it's at midnight. I don't know. But yeah, Sean's super cool, great guy.
I'm gonna hear about that tomorrow, I'm sure.
he got me into the plants. Him and Corey. I owe a lot of I would never have this many fish tanks if it wasn't for those two guys. So maybe that's a negative. But I mean, the plants help me keep the tanks looking good and healthy, and the fryer living in them. I love it so much more than plastic. It's more affordable than plastic because it just keeps growing and you can just keep adding it. And it looks real. I love the plants. So yeah, thank you, Sean, and thank you, Corey, for getting me into plants because it's really improved my hobby.
It really has. Really, really has for me as well. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on as always, Ed. It's fun. I enjoy being your technical support guy and your buddy. Looking forward to hanging out with you tomorrow. Thank you all for being here and supporting my friend, all the super chats, all the questions, just everybody here. I mean, 76 people watching. That's awesome. So thank you all.
Yeah, and thank you all the mods. You guys are all amazing and awesome too. I really appreciate it. You guys have a great day tomorrow. If you're going to stay up, stick around for Aquaballs because he's super cool. You never know. He's got so many different things going on. You never know what he's going to talk about. And you can ask him anything because he's very knowledgeable.
Absolutely.